Saddle up, folks, because we're about to ride into the wild, Wild West. These westerns aren't just tumbleweeds and shootouts. They're iconic, gritty tales packed with gun-slinging action, larger-than-life characters, and sweeping desert landscapes. Whether you're a fan of gritty antiheroes, sharp-witted cowboys, or chaotic frontier towns, this list will satisfy your thirst for adventure. So, grab your hat, dust off your spurs, and let's count down the 10 greatest westerns of all time. This film is the pinnacle of spaghetti westerns, a genre that managed to blend the grittiness of the American frontier with the operatic drama of European cinema. Directed by Sergio Leone, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly is an epic tale of betrayal, greed, and the relentless pursuit of gold. Clint Eastwood, sporting his iconic poncho, plays Blondie, a laconic gunslinger who epitomizes the strong and silent type. He's joined by two equally memorable characters, Tuco, the Ugly, a cackling ratty bandit played to perfection by Eli Wallach, and the Bad, Angel Eyes, a ruthless bounty hunter brought to life by the ever-intimidating Lee Van Cleef. The film's plot follows these three characters as they race to uncover $200,000 in stolen Confederate gold, each man ready to double-cross the other at any moment. What makes this film stand out is not just the intense, often wordless performances, but Leone's direction and Ennio Morricone's unforgettable score. That haunting, whistling theme is now synonymous with the Western genre itself. Leone's wide shots of barren deserts are punctuated by extreme close-ups of grizzled faces, sweat dripping, eyes darting, guns twitching in their holsters. Every scene is soaked in tension, with the final standoff at Sad Hill Cemetery being one of the greatest cinematic moments of all time. It's a drawn-out duel that feels less like a gunfight and more like a game of poker, where every glance and twitch carries as much weight as a bullet. And let's not forget, Tuco's rambling antics provide just enough comic relief to balance out the film's darker moments. This movie doesn't just raise the bar for westerns, it is the bar. Unforgiven isn't just a western, it's a meditation on violence, morality, and redemption. When Clint Eastwood returned to the genre with this film, he wasn't the young, smooth anti-hero anymore. Here, he's William Money, a former killer turned pig farmer who's haunted by his bloody past. But when a group of prostitutes offers a bounty to avenge one of their own who was mutilated by a couple of cowboys, Money takes on one last job, promising himself it's for his kid's future. What unfolds is a brutal deconstruction of everything the Western genre once celebrated. Eastwood's performance is heart-wrenching, playing a man who doesn't just pick up a gun again, he wrestles with it. Morgan Freeman as Money's old friend, Ned, is the perfect foil, showing a man who's done with violence but gets dragged back in anyway. Then there's Gene Hackman as Little Bill, the sadistic sheriff who seems almost to enjoy handing out beatings in the name of law and order. The tension between Hackman and Eastwood builds throughout the film, leading to a bloody, brutal climax that's a far cry from the heroic shootouts of old westerns. When Money finally snaps and returns to his violent ways, it's not triumphant, it's tragic. Unforgiven strips away the myth of the righteous gunslinger and leaves us with the harsh reality of what violence does to a man's soul. It's not just one of the best westerns, it's one of the greatest films ever made, period. If The Good, the Bad and the Ugly was the ultimate spaghetti western, Once Upon a Time in the West is Sergio Leone's magnum opus, a sprawling epic that turns the genre into high art. Everything about this movie is operatic, from its almost 3-hour runtime to its slow-burn pacing and grandiose set pieces. Henry Fonda, usually cast as the all-American good guy, plays against type as Frank, a merciless killer working for a railroad baron. His introduction scene is still shocking to this day. He calmly murders a family, including a child, in cold blood. You know you're in for a different kind of western when Henry freaking Fonda is the bad guy. The story centers around a mysterious harmonica-playing gunslinger, played by Charles Bronson, who teams up with a former prostitute, Claudia Cardinale, to defend her land from Frank and his boss. What makes this film stand out is the way Leone lets every scene breathe. Shots last forever, with Leone using every frame to build tension. And then there's the score. Morricone's music here is somehow even more haunting and expansive than in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Each character has their own musical theme, and it's impossible to think of Bronson's harmonica without hearing those eerie, piercing notes that follow him around. The film's climax, a one-on-one duel between harmonica and Frank, is a slow, operatic crescendo. As the sun sets, We finally learn the source of Harmonica's grudge against Frank in a flashback that hits like a gut punch. It's a film that takes its time, but for those willing to savor every shot, every note, and every nuance, it's a masterpiece that rewards you tenfold. If you like your westerns with a side of charm and wit, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is the movie for you. Paul Newman and Robert Redford as the titular outlaws are pure cinematic gold. Butch, the brains of the operation, and Sundance, the quiet sharpshooter, are the ultimate bromantic duo. They spend the film robbing banks, dodging posses, and generally charming the pants off everyone around them, including the audience. Newman's Butch is quick with a quip, while Redford's Sundance is the strong, silent type, except when he's busy shooting people. Together, they make robbing banks look like the coolest thing in the world. But this isn't just a light-hearted romp, it's also a story about the end of the Old West. The posse chasing them is relentless, and Butch and Sundance are always just a few steps ahead. The film's climax, where the two are cornered by an army in Bolivia, is a perfect blend of humor and tragedy. They don't go down in a blaze of glory so much as a blaze of bravado. As they run out guns blazing, the camera freezes, and we're left with one of the most bittersweet endings in movie history. The chemistry between Newman and Redford, combined with William Goldman's sharp script, makes this not just one of the best westerns, but one of the best buddy movies ever made. The Coen brothers' True Grit manages to pull off the rare feat of being both a faithful remake and a fresh reimagining of the original. While the 1969 version had the swagger of John Wayne, this one has Jeff Bridges as Rooster Cogburn, and he's every bit the grumpy, hard-drinking, trigger-happy marshal you'd want him to be. Rooster is hired by a stubborn 14-year-old girl, Maddie Ross, Haley Steinfeld, in a breakout role, to track down Tom Chaney, the man who killed her father. What follows is a darkly comic, sometimes brutally violent journey into the wilderness, with Rooster, Maddie, and a Texas Ranger named LaBeouf, Matt Damon, also great, hunting Chaney. Bridges' Rooster is less heroic and more ornery than Wayne's, with mumbled threats and an aversion to hygiene, but he's still the man you want on your side in a gunfight. The Coens infuse the film with their signature black humor and stunning cinematography, while Carter Burwell's score adds a mournful elegance. And let's not forget the dialogue. Maddie's no-nonsense attitude and her ability to out-talk anyone she meets makes her one of the most compelling Western heroines in recent memory. The final showdown between Rooster and the bad guys is thrilling, but it's the film's quieter moments that linger, especially the bittersweet ending, which reminds us that not every hero rides off into the sunset. John Ford's The Searchers is more than just a Western. It's a complex exploration of obsession, racism, and the lengths a man will go to for revenge. John Wayne plays Ethan Edwards, a Confederate veteran whose niece, Debbie, is kidnapped by a Comanche warband. Over the course of several years, Ethan relentlessly hunts for her, driven by a desire that goes far beyond simple rescue. His hatred for Native Americans borders on pathological, and Wayne's portrayal of a man consumed by his own demons is one of the darkest, most compelling performances of his career. The landscapes in The Searchers are breathtaking, with Monument Valley providing the perfect backdrop for Ford's sweeping shots. But what sets this film apart is its moral complexity. Ethan is not a hero in the traditional sense. He's deeply flawed, and his determination to rescue Debbie becomes more and more unsettling as the film progresses. When Ethan finally finds her, he faces a choice: kill her because she's been tainted by living with the Comanche, or bring her home. The film's haunting final shot, where Ethan stands framed in a doorway, isolated and alone, is one of the most iconic images in film history. It's a Western that dares to ask uncomfortable questions about its hero's morality, and it doesn't offer easy answers. The film's influence is still felt today, with filmmakers like Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg citing it as a major inspiration. The Searchers may be unsettling and morally ambiguous, but it's these very qualities that elevate it from a standard cowboy flick to a cinematic masterpiece. High Noon is the Western for anyone who's ever had to stand up for what's right, even when the whole town, heck, the whole world, turns its back on them. Directed by Fred Zinnemann, this isn't your typical action-packed shoot-'em-up. Instead, it's a tense, slow-burn drama that builds to an explosive finale, all unfolding in nearly real time. Gary Cooper plays Marshal Will Kane, a man who's just hung up his badge and married his Quaker bride, Grace Kelly, only to find out that a gang of outlaws, led by Frank Miller, is coming to kill him on the noon train. What makes High Noon so unique is its focus on the psychological torment of Kane as he seeks help from the townsfolk, only to find that everyone is too scared, or too indifferent, to stand with him. Cooper's performance is a masterclass in restraint. You can see the weight of the world on his shoulders, and the ticking clock only makes the tension worse. Every glance at the clock reminds you that time is running out. The film's minimalist approach makes the final confrontation all the more powerful. When Kane finally faces Miller and his gang in the deserted streets, it's not just a gunfight, it's a man facing his fate alone, without any backup or fanfare. But the film isn't just a tense thriller, it's also a powerful statement about courage and personal integrity. Released during the height of McCarthyism, High Noon was seen as a metaphor for the era's political climate, with screenwriter Carl Foreman, who was blacklisted for refusing to name names, using the story to highlight the cowardice and hypocrisy he saw in America. It's a timeless tale of standing up to evil, even when no one else will. There are few westerns as endlessly quotable as Tombstone, and even fewer that balance action, drama, and humor so perfectly. Directed by George P. Cosmatos, the film takes a historically famous event, the gunfight at the OK Corral, and turns it into a larger-than-life spectacle. The movie follows Wyatt Earp, Kurt Russell, who's trying to settle down with his brothers in the chaotic town of Tombstone. But of course, the Cowboys, a gang of lawless criminals led by Curly Bill, Powers Booth, and Johnny Ringo, Michael Biehn, have other plans. The real star of the show, though, is Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday. Kilmer absolutely steals every scene he's in, playing the drunken, quick-witted, tuberculosis-ridden gunslinger with equal parts charm and menace. Holliday's lines are delivered with a devil-may-care attitude that makes him the most quotable character in the entire movie. "I'm your Huckleberry" is just the tip of the iceberg. Almost everything Holliday says is dripping with venomous wit. The action is also top-notch. The gunfight at the OK Corral is one of the most intense, well-choreographed shootouts in Western history, but the real showdown is between Holliday and Ringo. It's not just about who's the fastest on the draw, it's a battle of wits and ego. Ringo's death scene, with Holliday's casual "You're no Daisy," is the kind of iconic moment that makes Tombstone stand out in a crowded genre. But it's not all gunfights and one-liners. The film also delves into themes of loyalty, justice, and the personal cost of living by the gun. The relationships between Wyatt and his brothers, and between Wyatt and Doc, add an emotional weight to the story that elevates it beyond a typical Western. Tombstone might not rewrite the rules of the genre, but it delivers on everything you want in a Western: action, drama, unforgettable characters, and a hell of a lot of swagger. Based on Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, The Magnificent Seven is proof that sometimes, all you need to make a great Western is a ragtag group of badasses with good aim and hearts of gold. Directed by John Sturges, this classic Western takes the basic premise of Seven Samurai, a group of skilled fighters defending a helpless village from bandits, and plants it firmly in the Old West. A poor Mexican village hires 7 gunslingers, led by Chris, Yul Brynner, and Vin, Steve McQueen, to protect them from a ruthless bandit leader named Calvera, Eli Wallach. The film's success lies in its incredible ensemble cast. Yul Brynner oozes cool as the leader of the group, with his shaved head, black outfit, and steely gaze. Then there's Steve McQueen, the king of cool, whose every movement seems to demand attention. And they're just the tip of the iceberg. Charles Bronson, James Coburn, and Robert Vaughn all add their own unique flavor to the team. Each of the 7 has their own skills, personality, and reasons for taking the job, and watching them bond over the course of the film is half the fun. The film's action sequences are still thrilling today, with plenty of shootouts and tense standoffs. But what really makes The Magnificent Seven special is its heart. These gunslingers aren't just in it for the money. They grow to care about the villagers they're protecting, and the sacrifices they make feel genuinely heroic. The score by Elmer Bernstein is one of the most iconic in film history, instantly recognizable and full of the kind of triumphant spirit that makes you want to stand up and cheer. While it might not have the gritty realism of some later westerns, The Magnificent Seven is pure entertainment, mixing humor, action, and just the right amount of sentimentality. It's a classic underdog story with a western twist, and it's a film that's as fun to watch now as it was when it first hit theaters. If The Magnificent Seven is the feel-good western, The Wild Bunch is its dark, violent cousin. Directed by Sam Peckinpah, this film is a brutal, unflinching look at the end of the Old West and the men who refuse to go quietly into that good night. The story follows a group of aging outlaws, led by Pike Bishop, William Holden, as they try to pull off one last heist in a world that's rapidly leaving them behind. Set in 1913, the film shows a world on the cusp of modernity. Cars, machine guns, and automatic weapons are replacing horses and six-shooters, and the Wild West is becoming a memory. From the very beginning, Peckinpah makes it clear that this isn't going to be a romanticized vision of the West. The opening bank robbery quickly descends into a chaotic bloodbath, with innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire. And it only gets bloodier from there. Peckinpah's use of slow-motion violence was revolutionary at the time, and the film's climactic shootout is one of the most infamous scenes in cinema history. It's not just a gunfight, it's a massacre, with bullets tearing through bodies in a ballet of destruction. But The Wild Bunch isn't just about violence for violence's sake. It's a story about loyalty, honor, and the cost of living outside the law. Pike and his gang are relics of a bygone era, struggling to find their place in a world that no longer needs men like them. Their final act of defiance, choosing to go out guns blazing rather than fade away, feels both tragic and inevitable. William Holden delivers a career-defining performance as Pike, a man who's seen too much bloodshed and knows there's no happy ending for men like him. The supporting cast, including Ernest Borgnine, Robert Ryan, and Warren Oates, is equally strong, each adding layers of complexity to the doomed outlaws. By the time the dust settles, you're left not with a sense of triumph, but of melancholy, as the Old West, and the men who lived by its code, finally meet their end in a blaze of glory and blood. The Wild Bunch is a gritty, uncompromising masterpiece that redefined the Western genre and set the stage for the darker, more complex films that followed. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.